Hi, my name is Rachel Sutton. This is my research presentation for EDUC 701 at Morningside College. The title of my research is called Improving Artistic Self-Efficacy in Adolescents Using SMART Goal Assessments. My credentials: I graduated in 2015 with my Bachelor's of Science in Art Education at Murray State. I began my teacher leadership program at Morningside 2018, and this is my 7th year teaching middle school art, grades 6th through 8th. And my 5th year actually teaching TAB, which is Teaching for Artistic Behavior, and that's just one of the art teaching pedagogies that I found really suited the needs of the middle school students. Problem statement. So this problem that I had coming from middle school students is that they come into my class and then they just don't really have a want to get better at their artistic skills. They think that either they're not good at it or they never had it to begin with. But just like any other skill, it can be improved. So changing their mindset, I think, is probably one of the biggest challenges I faced, but that's what I tackled in this research project. Why me? Well, I think I'm the only art teacher at my school, so if I've got a problem with students having a lack of artistic just motivation and belief in themselves, then it's got to start in my room. So for the past 4 years, I've been using the Studio Habits of Mind worksheet, and it's a 4-point rubric. It's a self-reflection, and it really reflects what students feel or feel like they assessed as an artist as they work through their artwork. So I've been using that rubric, and I'm incorporating that rubric also in my study design because I think that would be a great way to really capture what students feel about their art skills. There's a lot of literature on self-efficacy, not really for the art self-efficacy, but it just talks about the importance of self-efficacy. Having a positive outlook on your skills can really improve a lot of students' lives, not only in like their middle school and education years, but as they become adults too. It helps them face adversity and be problem solvers. Unfortunately, our schools don't always produce, well, not our schools, but like overall educational schools don't always produce critical thinkers. Usually one correct answer is what a lot of subjects teach to. So I think art is a great way to get outside the box, to be creative. So I really want to challenge my students to build up their artistic skills. Not that everybody's going to become an artist one day, but just because that they can't draw right now doesn't mean that they can't draw in a few weeks or next year, or just if they just wanted to try, they would get better at it. So I found a study that used 150 fifth graders, and the study found that while some classes increased self-efficacy, a few classes didn't achieve it. The thing about the study is they used authentic assessments, so assessments that really allowed students to just reflect on their work and as they work throughout the course. Self-regulating strategies such as growth mindset strategies is what the researcher did. But the limitation was the project outcome was very fixed. In my classroom, the projects are really creative. There is no one artist that does the same thing as another one unless they copy. But I try to discourage that. I do not like fixed projects. I don't like cookie cutter assignments. I think the art room is for creativity, not for producing a mass production of a type of art. So that's the negative side of that literature that I found. Also, there was also 80 fourth grade math students that found that math performance skills, self-efficacy also increased with those that set goals. So I tried to incorporate a goal somehow in my research design, and I think that's kind of what drove me to decide to make a goal setting for this improvement. Growth mindset is probably the theoretical, not probably, but it is the theoretical framework for this assignment. It's to think that one's mindset is fixed is not healthy for a student. It doesn't allow them to grow or have the potential to learn new things if they already go into something thinking that they're going to fail or that they don't have the skills needed. So growth mindset would definitely have to contribute to this research design. So the goals of this study is to determine if the impact of a SMART goal has any impact on increasing the artistic self-efficacy of adolescent art students. The independent variable is the SMART goals. So one group is going to create SMART goals, the other group is not. But all groups will create or will fill out an artistic self-efficacy rubric, which is using the studio habits of mind, the rubric I've been using for like 4 years now. So it's really relevant to my classroom. This is just a breakdown of all the studio habits. It talks about from developing craft to like actually artistic skills to even like observing what you see around you. All those are, well, all 8 of those habits are very distinct in their form, but they're also very unique to what artists do. And each artist can say that they've done those. It might not be in the correct order, but as a working artist, you do engage in all those habits. Participants, so I had 2 8th grade groups. I had 40 students total. Group 1 was the experimental group. There was 18 of those students. And then group 2 was the controlled group, so it was 22 of those students. There were about 50% male and 50% female, so my classes were evenly split. The average age was 13.7, so around 13, 14 years old. I think there was one 15-year-old student, so the majority were 13 or 14-year-olds, right where, you know, adolescence is really impacting their self-worth and self-efficacy of what they have and their skills that they have. And those are other breakdowns of the students of the population. So the method materials, again, those studio habits of mind were used. Every group created a studio habit of mind, a reflection rubric after every artwork, and there was 3 works of art that they did. Group 1 also had this SMART goal worksheets where they create specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals set on one specific habit that they scored low on. So they took their first assessment form and made a SMART goal based on one of the low assessments that they gave themselves. Assessment materials. The studio habit of mind is what I was used to assess the students' self-efficacy, how they feel, how they performed on their art projects. The independent t-test were used to compare the variances and see if there was any differences between group 1 and group 2 of the different 3 phases. And I also used paired t-tests to look more closely at the habits individually to see if there was any patterns of the habits that there was significant growth on. So you'll see the results of those soon. Procedures. So all students had 3 works of art that they created. The first work of art was the theme gratitude or perspective. The second work of art, the theme was a contest or contrast. And then the third work of art was artist-inspired art or self-identity. So I give my kids choices. I think choices really allow them to be creative and allow them to, you know, just really grow as an artist because, you know, no one tells an artist what to do. So they just have to curate it. So I try to limit their choices a little bit, but I still want them to make the choice as an artist. So the themes are Kentucky standard based and open-ended, so they allow plenty of choices for students. When it comes to medium, I try to limit the mediums in the beginning, like no paint and sculpture, but towards the end, all the supplies are opened up for them. So after I introduce the works of art and students work on them, around week 3 is when they wrap up the first artwork. That's where they will do the first studio habit of mind, reflection. And then group 1 will set the SMART goal. And then I'll introduce artwork number 2. And then at the end of that, around week 6, they'll do the second studio habit of mind reflection. And then group 1 will either redo the art goal, let's say they achieved their goal and they're going to pick another one, or they will just kind of revamp their goal if they didn't quite meet their the goal that they set for themselves. And then we'll do that again one last time after their last and final artwork. They won't do another they won't do another SMART goal assessment, but they will complete the third and final studio habit of mind reflection. So the results after I completed this study period in the classroom, the first assessment after the first artwork was not significant. The p-value was 0.71, so it was a little high. So they were kind of similar. Assessment number 2, this is the independent t-test where I combined their average scores in each group. The second assessment, the p-value was a little bit lower, so there is more of a difference there, but again, not significantly reliable data. And then the third assessment, which is after the last artwork, well, it was 0.48, but not, or sorry, the p-value was 0.6, which was close, but still not significantly different in terms of being a huge difference between the two groups. This is the median graph that I have between the two groups, and I think it's important to note that they all grew over the course. So this is group one, this is their first assessment, second assessment, and third assessment. So there is growth there. And their group two, the way it's not as much growth as group one, they still, outperformed really group one, but they started at a higher number too. So it's kind of good to see that on a graph that you can see like that they did grow in the class, but it just wasn't significant enough to prove that the smart girls were successful. And then I broke down the studio habits of mine individually. So I looked at each habit and I wanted to see, well, did any habits really grow? Is that something that we could, improve on? Well, the habit 1 did improve, as well as habit 7 with group 1. So they improved in 2 habits, and they did show significant growth with p-values under 0.05. So I was happy with that. And group 2, the controlled group, which they didn't set SMART goals, they still improved in one of the habits. So that's significant. But I would say coming from having 2 habits versus 1, I would say it still does not support the hypothesis. Although I wish it would have, it doesn't. So I would have to think of other ways to increase their self-efficacy in art. I mean, they did increase, but just to show a main difference that SMART goals were used or needed in order to achieve that growth. These habits are broken down into this graph, and I think it's kind of good to see. So I kind of wanted to point it out, the 3 habits that did improve significantly. So group 1, habit 1 increased. So you can see in the blue, it jumped quite a bit from the first assessment to the second assessment. Habit 7 increased a bunch too. So I was happy with, those little results, little victories. But overall, those are the only 3. And then group 2, in the red, you can see quite a big jump from, the first assessment, second, and third assessment. Implications for students, I would just have to, encourage my students and, future students that look at this study that a positive self-efficacy of one's own skills should be promoted and embraced. A healthy self-efficacy is important to build confidence in students that will prepare them for adversities in their future. And it doesn't have to relate to art. It could be in any subject. Especially implication for teachers. Student self-efficacy, it is malleable. And it should be investigated in other subjects. Teachers can foster a positive self-efficacy for student skills in every subject. SMART goals may have the ability to motivate students and impact other students' performances, but the data I gathered just didn't support the impact of SMART goals strategies in the art room. Implications for parents. One major thing that I was reading through the research is like parents' own skills are often transferable to students. So I would just encourage parents to, even if they're not good at that skill, encourage their child to explore it. Don't try to get your student to already go into something and knowing that they're going to fail. Encourage creative play, exploration, experimentation, and problem solving, because those are the skills that the future needs. Limitations to this study, there was a few disruptions. There's multiple class interruptions, such as the RTI program pulls a couple students, so 3 students missed 1 day, and then 1 in group 1, 2 in group 2. The class was also disrupted with some school closures, unfortunately. Quite a few were out for absences, like full weeks due to quarantine guidelines, so that kind of hindered some, but with that being said, all students did do the required 3 works of art and the 3 studio habits of mind rubric. So I got the data I needed for the study. I just feel like it could have made their experience a little rushed. Also, another limitation is that there could be just the natural growth that artists have in the art room. From artwork number 1 to 2 to 3, it's just a natural increase of their growth. So that could play into why the results did show growth, but just not significantly. And these are my references. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.